on the dresser, drive a compressor, top notch, get the most, not the lesser. Honey on the dresser,
Yeah.
drive a compressor,
Yeah.
top notch.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah. Ever
go.
since the day that
Welcome back to the Spiel Sports Talk Show, the hottest sports talk show on Twitch. It's your boy Sal, it's a Muslim. Welcome back, everyone. I hope everyone's had a great week. Hope everyone enjoyed all that football this weekend. We're going to have a football heavy episode. This is episode, I think, 9, right? No, we're on episode 10 now, I think, of the Spiel Sports
so
Talk
nice.
Show.
So nice.
I got
So
Quay with us
6-9.
tonight. We're doing the duos here on the Spiel. Quay, how you doing, man?
Oh man, I can't complain. Had a nice fall day, so feeling relaxed. But as always, it's always a pleasure when we can do the show, and give the people what they want, which is the best sports news and in all the land.
Yeah, and I'm glad we were able to get together, even though um, I'm actually coming live from the DMV, live from Maryland. Uh, just visiting some family out here, away from home, away from the Berg, but we'll be back next week. So we're using our travel setup, which we did a couple episodes back when I was over in Seattle, but took the time, took the effort to make the overlays and everything, and I hope everyone enjoys the show tonight. Let's get started. Let's talk about our Steelers. Um, and let's talk about what's up with the Steelers and what they did to Indy. Indy had 6 turnovers, which was the most that they had all season in a single game. They only had 4 in their first 8 games. This was a team that had 2 potential MVP candidates with Daniel Jones and Jonathan Taylor. And last week, on the Spiel, talking about how this is the type of game that Tomlin comes into and somehow plays up. And it seems like that's what happened. The score was close, the final result, but it's not a reflection of the actual game. The Steelers dominated this game, and at the end there, they were just playing prevent D. I think one of the more notable talking, I guess, pundits of this topic was Aqib Talib this week. I think it was on the show with Skip, and he was talking about
Yeah.
how this team can be dangerous. This is not the type of team that's going to go the whole season playing bad. There's just too many big names, too many Hall of Fame players on both sides of the ball for this team to go out quietly, and they ended up being the number 1 team in the league. But yeah, Quay, what are your thoughts on the Pittsburgh Steelers and them rising this week in terms of the stock?
I mean, you kind of said it, right? It was the type of game where somehow, some way, Tomlin gets the team in order to beat the best team, in the NFL currently, and probably still, even after tonight with the Broncos winning, improving their record. I think a lot of people are still thinking the Colts are the best team in the AFC. So the Steelers, handling business at home and doing what they needed to do. I mean, the defense, they just seemed like there was extra energy. I think Aaron Rodgers talked about it too in a press conference where he said, there was, after Jalen Ramsey had like a conversation, had a speech, just kind of like a team. And the defense just kind of changed, had the whole funeral too for the defense, had to go through its rebirth.
They
But
came back like Undertaker, right? Rose from the dead.
yeah, it's like rose from the dead. Like there was just extra energy. Guys were flying. Duggar came in fresh this week. Did amazing for the team.
He got the game ball, I
Yeah, it's
think.
just I don't know. Yeah, and the team just played very inspired. I I'm hoping, our defense can just keep that up. I mean, we have everything on that side of the ball to be able to play like this. As you said, the score was a little closer than, I probably would have liked with all of the turnovers and everything. I mean, we had 6 turnovers. We had multiple sacks, so it's just kind of like dominating on defense for us to only win by 7. That's the type of thing where I'm like, all right, do we need that wide receiver 2 on offense? The 3 tight ends seems to be the focal point in our offense, but do we need a little bit more to maybe help at some points? But I'm not too worried with Aaron Rodgers. He's, like I said, he's played very well all year. He's been taking care of the ball, been doing everything that we needed him to do all year. So the defense was the team that was the side of the team that we really needed to see step up. So seeing them step up tonight seeing them step up on Sunday was really, really important, and it was really fresh to see, the potential that is there. Shout out Peyton Wilson, White Shazier. I've said this to you earlier today. I mean, the dude is rangy. He's all over the field. Those were the types of things we saw from Shazier when he was on the team. I mean, cover sideline to sideline, just making these big impact plays. Rookie Jack Sawyer getting an interception off of a tip from Wilson. So, everyone was feasting on defense, big hits everywhere. JP with an interception, Peyton with the interception as well. So it's just, again, really, really great sight to see. I just really need to see the consistency for the rest of the year, because it's just frustrating for us to beat a team like this, but then previous weeks we lost to the Bengals, and we ended up losing to the Packers. We almost lost to the Jets early on this season, giving up over 30 points. It's just like we can't have our defense doing things like that, especially when we could have beat those teams that we lost to. And you see the teams that they lost to this week. I'm not saying that Bears team isn't pretty decent. That offense is pretty good. But for the Packers to lay a goose egg, or not, well, finish 4-0, but to pretty much not show up against the Panthers and end up losing that game, it's kind of frustrating to see. Like, the Steelers, again, a better team, I think, by all accounts, than the Panthers, and we couldn't beat a team like the Packers. So, but again, defense plays like it did on Sunday for the rest of the year. Sky's the limit, and it should really catapult us, to at least a playoff victory. I'm not going to say a deep playoff run, but at least a playoff victory.
Yeah, I think all week everyone was getting on that Steelers defense for not playing well, and they showed up this week. And there was, I think, Aaron Rodgers had mentioned that Jalen had everyone fired up and had a crazy speech, I think, during the week, that had everyone all riled up and ready to go. So it makes me wonder if, like, a lot of this is just a mental thing. Are they not? Maybe they're preparing X's and O's, but just like getting into the mindset that they need to be in order to succeed. But maybe there are some X and O's things there too. I think some of us may have noticed that with the loss of Deshaun Elliott, things had to shuffle up a little bit, and we got Jalen Ramsey there at safety, basically taking over what kind of like what Thornhill did, just roaming, and Thornhill's kind of been
Just
the butt at
roaming,
every
yeah.
joke. But no, he definitely got his reps out there too. But he lost the starting job to a Hall of Fame caliber player, so I'm sure there's no feelings hurt there. And then Duggar coming in also, I think, solidified and helped bolster that missing safety that we lost with Elliott. So it looks like the team also simplified the defense a little bit from what people are saying and what people are observing, and it's paying dividends. And I think TA was saying they had to simplify it just because we got people in new positions, and they just wanted to kind of dumb it down, and they played it simple, stupid, and it turned out to be great for the defense. And in typical Terrell Austin fashion, the defense was actually giving up plays. I mean, the first drive of the game, they are just getting whatever they want in terms of yards, and they got a touchdown. But all it takes is one TJ Watt big play, sack, fumble, to kind of change the game. And that wasn't even the first turnover of the game. If those who watched the game recall, there was the muffed punt. I think after the first Steelers possession, and they actually came away with no points. And Tomlin was over aggressive there, which normally he's not, but it kind of showed the mentality that they had this week. It was do or die. They played as if the season was on the line, and maybe it was on the line. They don't win this game. Who knows how far they were going to get in terms of these wins with the gauntlet that's coming up.
It's a tough gauntlet. It's a tough gauntlet coming up.
So, so is this
I mean,
more
we
about
got
the
we got the
Steelers
Chargers.
defense,
I
do you
mean,
think? Or do you think this is kind of Daniel Jones showing who he truly was? Because they took away JT, Jonathan Taylor, who's supposedly the MVP of the league, and the Steelers took him out of the game, just say, hey, we're going to let someone else beat us, Josh Downs or uh, whoever else that they have out there that can leak through, because we're going to get the number one receiver, the Pittmans of the world. And Pittman was getting beat up out there too. You saw Ramsey with the big hit on him. But Daniel Jones had 5 of the 6 turnovers, right? He had the 2 fumbles, one from Highsmith, one from Watt, had the 3 picks. Peyton
3
Wilson won,
picks.
Sawyer, and then Joey Porter at the end. Wilson, I think, is another player who I think has struggled a lot in the last couple of weeks, and maybe he benefited from the simplified defense. And I really do think having Jalen up there changes things, because now you have Joey Porter, and Slay obviously is going to be the butt of every joke, it seems like, over the past couple of weeks. But I think he'll get better over time too, just adjusting, and the linebackers have played really well. And I think the defensive line had a great game too. I mean, Cam had some good games, and then on the flip side, on the offensive line, there's clips circulating of Faltanu just bullying all-pro players and some real deal pass rushers, and neutralizing that defense. Obviously, this was the number 1 offense in the league, but the defense have been making big plays when needed, so especially early on. So I think it's a big win for the Steelers, but we'll see whether or not they can take it over next week with the Chargers. I mean, what do you think that's going to happen there? Do you think the Steelers can pull away a victory? Not that the Chargers are the best team in the league like the Colts were. I do think the Colts are still legit. But it does seem like the Chargers are kind of top half of the league and potentially a playoff matchup in the future.
Well, yeah. So to answer your first question with like the defense, I definitely think it was just more about the defense than Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is still, like you said, the Colts are legit. Daniel Jones is good. He started to kind of come alive. I mean, certain things were a little different at the end. Maybe they could have made some plays to end up tying the game. But I think we're seeing what Daniel Jones' potential is, in terms of how the season has turned out for him. He's a good quarterback that has dual threat ability. Maybe not super athletic in comparison to a Josh Allen or a Lamar Jackson, but still can move very, very well. Very accurate, has a strong arm. What we're seeing this season is not just a fluke. So I just think it was a bad game. Steelers defense, we played very, very well. Like I said, all season, $200 million, the most expensive defense. We have to show that it was worth it. So we showed that it was worth it. So, but against the Chargers, I think this is a game that I feel like could go either way. But again, this is one of those things where I don't know if it's just a Tomlin thing, if it's a weird Steelers thing, but will somehow play up against these teams in this gauntlet that we're getting ready to go through. And our defense is about to play the best defense it's played all year, supposedly. So it'll be interesting to see if that is what turns out, which I believe is likely the case. But the Chargers are a really good team. Justin Herbert, I think, is kind of solidifying himself in that number 5 spot in terms of quarterback play, especially for the season. And their offense is really, really good. You got guys, like I said, or Rondé Gaston, who came out of nowhere, it seems like. Quentin Johnston has finally emerged, even though he had a few weeks where fantasy wise he didn't produce that much, but had a nice bounce back week this past week. And obviously Lat McConkey and Keenan Allen, the vet. There's weapons, and the Steelers' defense was made to contend with an offense that has weapons everywhere. That's why we went out and got these corners. That's why we went out and made sure that we had decent or above average safeties back there, to really make sure that we didn't give up anything in the passing game. And that's why we bolstered our running attack or our running defense. So no matter who was back there, we would neutralize a running attack. We hadn't been that great most of the year, but again, last week we really buckered down and we went ahead and handled business there. So if the defense plays how it did, this could be a game where, probably still something around like a 23, 20 type of game. Still, I can see this very, very close, but this will be something where the defense makes key plays to really solidify the game and win the game for the offense, win the game for the offense. Because I believe the offense is going to go down and make that play to score, and then the defense is going to end up making that play to make sure that the offense does not get a touchdown, so that we can go out there and leave with a W.
They definitely need this W. I mean, they snapped this 2-game losing streak, losing to a Bengals team that everyone left for dead, but now looks like one of the best offenses in the league. So maybe in hindsight, the loss isn't as bad as it looks, even though we all know how questionable I think some of the defensive schemes were in that game, letting Jamar Chase go all over and uncontested. But in order to stay in this AFC North race, they really needed to win this game to get ahead. They have this big lead against all the other teams. But teams like the Ravens, they kind of did their tough part of schedule early on, and they also didn't have arguably the best player in the league with Lamar Jackson, the MVP, former MVP. So now that he's back, last week, they got their dub on Thursday Night Football. So it looks like they're going to be hungry and ready to go. And they really have no room for mistakes. I think the Ravens are similar to the Steelers in the sense that sometimes they lose to teams that they're not supposed to lose to. But I think they're in go mode, they're in survival mode. So I see Harbaugh getting those guys up and ready and to play. And the Bengals are right behind too. So we'll see if they continue to score like this. I think even if the defense lets up a lot of points, I think they could win some games and contend for a playoff spot at least, with Joe Flacco as their quarterback. And then the Browns, I mean, it's unfortunately, I think for them, they got to start looking towards next season. And, it's really sad to see Myles Garrett play at like a all-pro level just for another year to be just like how it normally is. But I think he
It always is.
probably already used to this, right? I think he knows what he's getting into, and that's why he wanted to get a trade. But money called, and he went to the money, which, at the same time, you're being loyal to a fan base that loves you dearly. So Sometimes there's better things than just championships, I guess. But hopefully, that organization could be more competitive moving forward. But I do think this is the Steelers' division to win. But I mean, what do you think about the Ravens and their rise, and the Bengals and their kind of revived offense with Joe Flacco? Do Steelers here have any shot? Maybe they win this week against the Chargers, but who's to say they lose next week to the Bengals?
Uh,
Because you know it's gonna happen.
I can very much see. Yeah, I was gonna say I can very much see. I can very much see that happening. I believe that. So before we get to that, I believe the Browns will beat the Jets. Um, so Miles Garrett at least will be a little happy there. Um, it is interesting that he did decide to stay and take the money. Um, Demanding the trade, and any team would have paid him. I mean, I'm pretty sure Jerry probably would have paid that dude somehow, some way. He probably would have paid for Miles Garrett.
White Yoda.
He would have traded Micah, and he would have loved the fact that Micah's in Cleveland to rot. Not get any type of championship or sniff a championship. But yeah, still dominant. I think the dude is a future Hall of Famer, just off of the sheer talent, the impact he's had on the game and everything. Really just sucks that he's been on the Browns. But like you said, he took the money, so we'll see what happens there. But Joe Flacco, man, I don't know what it is about the dude, but it seems like no matter where he's gone in the past few years, he's able to produce. I don't know what it is. Like if Aaron Rodgers truly is done, after this season, and we want to potentially still feel like we can get a Super Bowl, even though I don't think we would win a Super Bowl with him, I wouldn't mind necessarily having Joe Flacco as our quarterback. Just seeing how, he's really, revitalized this latter stage of his career. It was weird with the Colts last year. That was kind of like the only thing. It was like the Colts last year, he was not that great. It was weird. But with the Browns, how he revitalized his career and got them to a wild card game. I mean, kind of had a meltdown that game, but he was the reason they got there. Their season seemed to have been over before that quarterback change. Brought him in. He didn't even think he was going to play. He was just kind of on the couch, hadn't retired, was kind of mulling it. But here we are, a couple years later, he's still in the league. The Bengals working that offense where they scored over 35 the past 3 weeks. So it's, or 34 and over the past 3 weeks. So it's just kind of crazy how he's done it. I mean, that Bengals offense, they put all their money into the offense. That's why their defense can't stop anyone, and that's why they lost this game that they should have won. But they're going to be able to put points on the board as long as they have someone competent, and it's insane to believe that, Jake Browning sure hasn't been in the league as long as Flacco, but Flacco should be diminishing and Jake Browning should be developing, and he really stalled the offense. Joe Flacco comes in and this offense is, it's a team that you're going to have to score points against because they're going to score points against you. So if you don't have an offense that can match their firepower, the Bengals can be scary. So it is a team to watch out for. And, the Ravens getting healthy again, they're going to obviously be scary. Lamar is, one of the best quarterbacks, top 2, top 3, depending on who you talk to, who you ask. But he is He's the engine that runs that team, and with Derrick Henry as well. As long as they feed him, get him in positions to where he's running, he's turned up, he can easily just go ahead and get those yards, and he's not worried too much about doing too much at the end of the game, so he doesn't fumble like he has been weirdly at the beginning of the season. But their team and their defense seems to be getting a little bit better as well. Still not quite up to the par that I would say the Steelers defense showed this past Sunday, but their defense is getting better as well as it seems based off the past two games. And yeah, they're going to always be scary too. So the Steelers really needed needed that win, and really need to string along these wins in this gauntlet coming up. Because again, like I said, Bengals, I mean, they're on a bye week this week, but with them having the firepower that they do, anything can happen for them. Because again, you're going to have to score to beat them. And then with the Ravens, they got to match up against the Vikings here. But if they win there, they're still easily in contention to try to get the division as well. So it's going to be tough. But I still think it's kind of wide open for anyone to win this division in the AFC North outside of the Browns here. But those three teams we just talked about here, the Bengals, Ravens, Steelers, it's still kind of wide open.
Yeah, you already know that those late season AFC North games are going to mean a lot more. And that's why they put those divisional games at the end. Because remember, before people used to sit out week 17. Now week 18 is a big deal. Yeah, I don't see the Ravens winning the division just because the hole that they're in. And it's hard to expect a team to win that many after losing so much at the beginning of the season. Um, but if there's a team to do it, I mean, it's definitely the team that has Lamar Jackson on it. And even in the losses that they had earlier in the year, I mean, he played excellent, but the defense
played
just played
excellent.
really badly. But last week against Miami, they looked really good. Makes me wonder if that's a Miami thing, or maybe they figured it out too. Just how the Steelers were able to figure out how to optimize and get the most out of their defensive personnel. Um, and like you said, the
I
Bengals,
understand it now.
it's an offense thing. So they're just hoping they could score more, and sometimes that means you lose to the Jets. But yeah, let's move on. Let's talk about just like the NFL in general and what happened there in Week 9. I think one of the more notable games was the Bills Chiefs game, and Patrick Mahomes had a career low 44% passing percentage, and our
No touchdown.
yeah, no touchdown. So is this just another Bills Chiefs regular season result, or is this year going to be the year that the Bills are going to knock off the Chiefs in the playoffs and make it to the promised land?
Well, I think the biggest question before you even get there is if the Chiefs can make it to the playoffs. I don't think it's too far fetched to ask that question. Um, Again, when you really think about it, you have the Ravens who are still fighting, and their schedule gets a little easier as the year goes on, more tougher divisional matchups later on. But in terms of their gauntlet, they handled most of the tougher part early on already. So if they can win the games that they should, they're going to obviously be in position to win. But the Chiefs, they have a tough division to face out against still. They have the Broncos. They still have the Chargers. They've already dominated against the Raiders once, but who knows how the Raiders weren't fully healthy then. They're more healthy now. So anything can happen, especially against division matchups. But they still have a tough schedule. And it makes you wonder with the way the AFC is, because I mean the Chargers are right there as well. You have the Bills, obviously. You have the Steelers right now, who are obviously producing. The Texans have looked rough, but they're stringing along some wins now, and they're getting healthy. So things can happen with them. Not saying I don't believe we won't see the Chiefs in there, but there's a lot of things to look at here. And we even have the Patriots. Patriots are looking amazing. And so with 7 teams obviously going in, with anything can really happen at this point. Colts, obviously, we didn't expect them to be this great, but the Colts. So if we name off 7 teams here, I mean, just the teams right now that are in the AFC that are doing good, not necessarily any order, but we obviously have the Steelers, we have the Broncos, we have the Colts, we have the Chargers, we have the Bills, and we have the Patriots, we have the Texans/Jaguars. It's not easy. It can easily be this year that we don't see the Chiefs in there. But again, I don't necessarily see that happening. But again, they're going to have to win games from this point on out, because the AFC gauntlet is tough, and it's not as easy to get into the playoffs as it is in the NFC. And the NFC this year is a little more challenging than it's been in previous years. So yeah, shout out to the Bills. I mean, Josh Allen and the Bills have been seemingly been able to take out the Chiefs in the regular season, the past couple of matchups that they've had. It's been in the playoffs where the Bills tend to falter. So they get the regular season win, but they end up losing the war once it comes down to the playoff matchup. So does it matter to win this battle if you can't win the war later on? But I do think this Bills team obviously is playoff caliber. They've been to multiple AFC championships. They just need to seal the deal. It's always been against the Chiefs when they can't seal the deal. And if the Chiefs don't go to the playoffs in general, I mean, I think the Bills will probably be licking their chops, because it's essentially their Super Bowl to go ahead and take at that point, if the Chiefs aren't in there. Not saying that it'll be easier, just you can just easily hand it to them, but they're going to be like, okay, there should be nothing stopping us, because our arch nemesis, the Chiefs, aren't here anymore. And we've been able to beat the Ravens in the playoffs. We beat the Steelers in the playoffs a few years ago. Obviously, the team is much, much different now than it was in that divisional matchup with Mason Rudolph as the quarterback. But again, they would have no real excuse, and I feel like they would feel much, much more disappointed if they were to not make it to a Super Bowl if the Chiefs somehow didn't make it to the playoffs or got eliminated early on in the playoffs. But just a great game. It's always a fun game when these two quarterbacks face each other, to the best in the league. Again, top 2, top 3, depending on who you ask, however they want to order it. But again, Bills, their path is pretty much set, and I don't think they're going to really falter as much. They looked like a safer team, but the Chiefs, even being healthy, is it's kind of alarming to see that Patrick Mahomes' performance and the way the offense played for the most part against this Bills defense that, by all accounts, isn't necessarily as strong as it's been in years past. But great plays from the front 7. I think they're starting to kind of get kind of their rhythm going. Joey Bosa making a great play. I think he's been a great addition for them in the pass rush. They haven't had a pass rusher like that since Von Miller was healthy and on the team. So having him, being able to wreak havoc off the edge, and having Ed Oliver in the middle, They were able to really make things very uncomfortable for Patrick Mahomes and neutralize that deep passing attack and even that short run after catch attack that they have too. So great game as always, like I said. So we'll see what ends up happening, but we have to look out for the Chiefs. This could be a year that we really do not see them in the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah, that would be really weird. I think the thing that they have going for them is that they play some of those teams that are in contention. They're playing, the Broncos, who only have 4 losses, I think. The Colts, who are 7-2, um, and then they also play the Chargers, and then they play the Broncos again. So they have the opportunity to get their lick back there. And then they also play teams like the Raiders and the Titans and the Cowboys of the world and the Texans, who will probably miss the playoffs, but any given Sunday, right? But I do think the Chiefs are gonna make it to the playoffs just because I think they are going to win some of these games against some of the teams that are in front of them. And also, some of these teams are, they played well the first half of the season, but let's see what happens when they start having to play cold weather games. What happens when they're behind the 8 ball? And you saw that with the Colts, right? They got in a situation where they all of a sudden they were behind and they couldn't play the football that they wanted to play. And not everyone
Mm-hmm.
is engineered to come back from behind like that. Um, so I think that'll be interesting. I do think the Chiefs are going to still make the playoffs. It's just whether or not they're going to be a team that makes noise, especially the way they've been playing recently. I thought this defense was looking a lot better in recent weeks. So for them to, uh, oh, I think it was a defensive game either way, right? I think that the modern NFL score might not reflect it, but this was definitely a defensive game, and it really shows with that Chiefs offense struggling. And it looks like the power has kind of shifted now, right? We've had these teams that have historically been great over the last 5 to 10 years, the Patrick Mahomes of the world and the Josh Allen's driving that, right? It's a quarterback-driven league, and now we have teams that are winning kind of more in a gritty fashion, right? With the teams like the Steelers that are playing. The Broncos. I mean, we just saw them win tonight. Only put 10 points on the board, but a
Mm-hmm.
win is a win. So that type of formula, I will say in today's NFL, probably isn't sustainable. It could probably get you to the playoffs, but then when the playoff time comes, people are coming with creative plays, trying to defeat your tendencies on defense, and are you going to be able to do that in January? And that's always the question that I have about some of these teams that are unproven. Like the Colts have been playing so well, but I could also see them losing in the first round to a team that they shouldn't lose to. But that's what we love about football,
Yeah.
right? Everything and anything can happen. Panthers won on a 49-yard field goal as the clock hits 000. Their defense held Jordan Love to under 100 yards. No, I don't think anyone expected that. And then the Vikings,
Any given Sunday.
Vikings being the Lions, who
Yeah,
now are
Vikings
back
look
at
good.
500, and they looked a lot stronger at the beginning of the season, and now they're kind of back at it. But it's like what J.J. McCarthy said in his post-game interview. I mean, or I think it was during the week. He just switches and he becomes 9, and he becomes a whole nother animal. So we'll see if if the Vikings and them can pull off a winning streak here and get into playoff picture. Then the other team, the Bears. I mean, the Bears beating that Bengals team that we talked about. I mean, Caleb Williams caught a touchdown pass this weekend, and that team is looking like it's starting to come together too. We talk about the Packers a lot in that division, um, but yeah, that NFC North. I mean, that's a tough one. There's a lot of. I mean, the Lions look
Something
like
about the North.
they might not, yeah, they might not be able to keep up. They might be in a similar state as the Vikings, I think, with the Packers and the Bears kind of, I think, potentially pulling away too. So again, week 9, I think if I saw correctly, had the most, I think only had one game that wasn't decided by less than one possession. And I think the week before, it was like the most games since like the 30s or something that the games were all more than one possession games. So it's crazy how things flip in the NFL. One
That's
week
so
you got a
that's
week
so
that's
crazy.
quote unquote bad, and then the next week you have one of the more historically close matchup weeks of the year. But yeah, maybe we could jump into our week 10 preview and talk about some of the matchups. Obviously, we talked about the Steelers going up to LA to play the Chargers. They're the underdog, I believe, 3-point underdog into that game, and um, I don't think it's an easy dub, but I think it's a potential dub, and I do think they're going to rise to the occasion of that, like we said. Um, there's all sorts of other matchups that are interesting. You know, the Bills visit Miami, and I could see them upsetting them and just derailing all that momentum with that Chiefs game. Um, and that could cause a lot of issues for the Bills moving forward. You know, that those are the type of games you need to win. But we saw a Pittsburgh Steelers team that lost to the Cincinnati Bengals when they had the momentum with them, and they could have taken that momentum to the next level, especially in this division or this conference, right? They have the tiebreakers against the Colts, and they have the tiebreaker against the Patriots. So they're actually in position that if
Mhm.
they can get some steam, I mean, the Steelers team could really match up. But the Bills, I think, are in that same position this week where who's going to show up here? Are they going to take the division right now and beat the Dolphins, or is there going to be a bit of a setback there with what we call the trap game, right? Um, Other interesting game, I mean, that
It's a trap.
the Colts are going to play the Falcons in Germany. We all expect the Colts to bounce back, and I think the Colts are going to bounce back. And I think it's a good segue to talk about maybe some of the new players that they acquired, or some of the teams acquired over the week. Um, some of the big trades we saw, big names. The Jets decided to just do a whole fire sale. They're just like, you know what? We're just gonna get rid of our players, and Colts ended up getting Sauce Gardner, and they ended up paying 2 first-round picks and wide receiver Donnie Mitchell for that. You know, they're 7-2, and maybe they saw some deficiencies over the last couple of weeks, some weaknesses. But do you feel like the Colts got fleeced here in terms of Sauce Gardner's a great player, but 2 first-round draft picks is pretty steep, and also a
First round.
serviceable uh, wide receiver too. It's not like it's a receiver you have on your practice squad. It's someone who's suiting up for you on Sunday. The Colts pay too much for Sauce.
I think they paid too much. I wouldn't have done 2 first rounders. Um, you can make an argument that yeah, his play hasn't been great, but is that just because the team isn't that great? So you're buying in on the potential of his first year and half of his second year. Um, so I can understand maybe like a first round pick, especially for a team that they're not in like a rebuild. They don't necessarily need a first round pick when you're in like this win mode now or win now mode. You tend to get players in free agency to kind of fill any holes that you believe the team has. So I don't think losing one would have been that big of a deal because it's just for next season. But you don't know how your season's going to be next year. So for all you know, you might need that first rounder, 2 years in the future, 3 years in the future. And you gave up, 2 in a row. And it's kind of like, well, if something ends up happening where you really need that first round pick, you don't have it for a while. But again, I think the Colts are looking at their timeline, and for them, they're like, we're not going to need first round picks right now because we like where our team is at, who we have on the roster, and all that stuff. So I think that's what they're thinking. And again, it's not necessarily that bad to lose out on those first rounders if that's the case. But like you said, for the Jets, I believe they're the ones that are winning this deal. You get a decent, you do get a decent receiver. Adonai Mitchell has had plays his past couple of years when he's been healthy, where you're like, okay, he has the potential to really show out and make some plays. So we'll see if the Jets want to keep him around, if he is going to be part of their future plans and things like that. But those two first rounders for a team that's clearly in a rebuild mode is amazing. Hopefully they can turn this franchise around in the next couple of years with all these picks. Because obviously, too, we can segue that into another team that they traded one of their stars off to. So Quinnen Williams going to Dallas. And like, how does that, help Dallas out, after getting destroyed by a Cardinals team, which will probably segue after this. They obliterated this Dallas team. Defense just dominated. Again, the Colts defense couldn't stop anyone. And, they went out and got Quinnen Williams. They went out and got Logan Wilson. So they made some moves themselves to try to bolster this defense here. But I don't know. I still don't know if it's much, in terms of helping them out. It's one thing if your defense isn't that good, but if there's times where your offense can't even put up points, as we're seeing, I mean, the Bengals don't have that great of a defense, and they didn't really make any moves to improve it. But again, they have been able to put up 30 plus points the past 3 weeks in a row. And so it makes you wonder then with the Cowboys, is it really your defense, or, does Dak sometimes falter? Is it play calling for the offense? Because the way Javonte Williams is playing, and he's playing like the, running back that we all believed he was when we saw him his first year in Denver. You have CeeDee Lamb, who is clearly a top 5 receiver. And then you have George Pickens, who is every year an ascending talent. Great tight ends, a good third option, 2 good third options, depending on lineups, at receiver with Turpin or Tolbert. This offense should be able to put up points consistently, even if their defense struggles. So I think it doesn't really necessarily matter. This will be more so about the future of Dallas, in my opinion, when it comes to getting guys like Quinnen and Logan Wilson. Maybe it'll shore things up a little bit, but at least Quinnen he's a great talent, and he's on a new team that at least has certain aspirations, even if Jerry doesn't necessarily deliver on those aspirations. So, but what do you think about Dallas and their season going forward after these trades?
My main question is, okay, so you bring in a player that you're gonna have to pay a ton of money to. Well, then what happens to the George Pickens of the world, who you're gonna have to re-sign if you want to keep him? Or maybe they don't plan to keep him. I mean, last week he had another gaffe, another unsportsmanlike conduct, another Pickens crash out type of moments. And it makes you wonder, right? What happens if things don't go according to plan? can he keep it together? And then is it worth the money, right? It's one thing to have him for this 1 year. You made this trade. You were kind of in this win now situation at the beginning of the year, and you're no longer there. So I'm surprised that they didn't move him. And I don't think they're going to pay him. So it might be one of those mutual understandings where it's like, well, we only have you for one season here. And we'll find someone else in the future. But I think that the Jets definitely won the trade deadline game. 3 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks over the next 2 drafts. They got Aaron Glenn and company, assuming he's still there. He is going to be able to do whatever they want and really build the team in their vision. But is Quinnen Williams going to save Dallas, who's currently 3-5-1, and get to the promised land this year? I don't think so. I mean, I think the Eagles are so far away in that division, and like you had mentioned earlier, the NFC teams are so good. I think they could play spoiler. I think they could upset some seasons or ruin some seeding for maybe one of the top teams just because of the offense. But we'll see. We'll see if adding are you just one piece away? Sometimes teams are, and you kind of see that with the Colts this year, where the changing quarterback has really made a difference. A lot of the same faces over the last couple of years, but just having someone with high IQ, good head over his shoulders, and can make the right play. Outside of obviously this week's or last week's game against the Steelers, they were able to find someone who could take care of the ball and run the offense the way they want to. So, can Quinnen Williams bring the type of pressure needed in order to stop teams in the NFC? It's hard for me to say. And I think even in today's game, even the best defensive players, they're not the same game breakers. Not everyone's Myles Garrett, right? They could definitely make plays, get the sacks on plays that you need to, but you can't rely on that every single week. At the end of the day, it is all about Dak and the offense, and they didn't play that well last week. So they're going to have to bounce back and get things going again if they want to even have a shot at playoff contention. And then the other team that made some moves, I mean, was the Eagles. Right? They made some moves. They got
make some key moves. Yeah.
They got Jair. They got Michael Carter from the Jets. And then they got Jalen
Phillips.
So they were active too. They felt like, okay, we're at the top of our conference, one of the better teams in the league, but we still need to get better. And as a Steeler fan, I mean, it's frustrating to see no moves being made at wide receiver, but I think maybe it wasn't for the right price. They didn't want to give up those draft picks, and they didn't believe enough in the Jacoby Myers in the world, or whoever the receiver is that people were theorizing that they were going to get. And then they ended up getting Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who seemed super excited in his interview this week to rejoin Aaron Rodgers, and we know that Aaron loves him as a deep threat. So maybe Omar Khan and Mike Trump.
Shaheed was too expensive.
Yeah, I think
Seahawks got Shaheed. Shaheed was too expensive.
they were just like, yeah, that maybe they were like, you know what? I don't want to give up a 3rd and a 5th round pick, and we're just gonna keep who we have, because maybe they believe the wide receiver 2 is already in the room. I mean, Calvin Austin, when he plays, when he's healthy, is one of the most reliable guys. Seems like he can run every single route, but he's just injury prone, I think, because of his size, and it makes you worried, like, can he take that many hits over the course of the season and stay healthy? But we'll see. I'm hoping that this MVS move ends up panning out for our team here, but knowing the Steelers, I think the Roman Wilsons of the world, despite that awful fumble that he had trying to hurdle over a defender, I believe he's going to get more touches this week against the Chargers. I am willing to bet that. I think he's going to get more touches. But hopefully we get a little bit of that MVS. I know he's on the practice squad right now, but hopefully he gets elevated and can join the team because I do think that the offense needs some wide receivers. A big body too, like MVS. I think that could really make a difference. So
6'2",
yeah,
6'2", 210.
so yeah. Um, but yeah, that's it. I think for our show. I think normally we got Black Belly's waiver wonders, but I think he's given you all the waiver wonders all year. Now it's just time for your team to step up and put up. I think there's not much to grab
Pretty
out there,
much.
right? It's like a desert.
It's a desert right now. No one really stepped up this week based off of anything. I mean, I mentioned names, that they're kind of fluctuating always out there. Sal has taken advantage of some of those with like Troy Franklin and Horton from the Seahawks. Um, but then we have, the likes of like Tyrone Tracy because of the injury to Scat. Um, he's played more second fiddle. So, it's things like that. Everyone that I've mentioned that could have been mentioned, to be picked up. It's week 10, it's crunch time. It's almost playoff time. So you got to make sure that you're just rolling out there with the guys that have been getting you points all year. It doesn't matter if it's a star receiver or running back that you feel like you need to start because of their value and all of that. If they haven't been getting you points, you got to send them on the bench and you got to put the guy out there that's been getting you points. It's how it works in real life too. It's like the Cardinals. I mean, due to injury, Brissett's out there, but Jacoby Brissett has been
Playing well.
elevating that offense, and he's been winning, and he's been helping them at least, look better and play better, and they won their game and dominated against the Cowboys this past Monday night. So, again, Black Belly can only tell you, just go with the points, follow the points,
Yeah, follow the
points and
point.
consistency.
You either got it or you don't, I think, at this point in the season. So I know for me, my biggest issues right now is do I keep these players I've been stashing or do I get rid of them and then try to make some moves? But it's definitely drier than the desert out there in free agency right now. So if you have those key players already, God bless you. So that's it for our show. Did you have a spiel tonight, Quay?
I did not really have a spiel, but tonight I had a lovely spa day, and my spiel is
Zen.
just gonna tell everyone out there, every once in a while you gotta become zen. We are always constantly moving, constantly going. Work, 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 do. Capitalist America. It's hard out here. We're in a bit of recession, depression. We got to go out here and make this money and support our families and stuff. But you gotta relax too. Relaxing is part of living. It's part of taking care of ourselves. So as a health and wellness connoisseur and professional, I just want to tell people, take a break. Go to a spa, get that massage, get that manicure, get that pedicure, relax. Just find out one day, you got the time to do it, and relax and start to make some time throughout the rest of your life when you can, because it's very important. Your body will thank you and your mind will thank you. So that's all I got to say.
Yeah, definitely. You know, try your best out there with mental health. Remember, there are people out there that care for you, even though you may not feel that way. Who would be heartbroken if you weren't with us. So yeah, so RIP Nealon from the Cowboys. No dealing with mental health of himself, and just thoughts and prayers to his family and his loved ones, and to all of those who are struggling from mental health out there. It's your boy, it's a Muslim, Sal. tuning out from the DMV. Quay, it was great to have you here. Great show tonight. I really appreciate everyone. As always, it is the Spiel Sports Talk Show, and I hope to see everyone again soon. So, till next time.
Till next time.
Good night, everyone.
Right with the press.